The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you.
Hello and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
the sweet little monkey that contracted TB and won't make it through the night? That is, hey Norm. My pronouns are also he, him.
Yep, we are, as promised, we're diving into the world of Donovan's brain. Starting out with this first adaptation, which strangely is not called Donovan's brain. Which it's going to be interesting. I think we kind of have talked about this a little bit. That have you read it at all? I know we talked about that. You said you'd picked up a copy sometime recently, but you said you hadn't read it though, right?
No, I've got in my quote unquote office room, my main bookshelf. I've got an entire Frankenstein shelf, and it's mostly Frankenstein, but it's also got a few other. Culturally significant science fiction stuff. I've got the Metropolis, the book Metropolis that the silent film is based on, crammed in there. I've got Donovan's Brain. I've got a book that's just a bunch of very well-known mad scientist short stories that were written and published in Weird Tales. So I've got a lot of stuff like that, including Donovan's Brain, that I kind of just sit with all my Frankenstein stuff that I haven't actually sat down and cracked open. I just like to, collect it and know that I have it.
Yeah, I get it. I'm the same way. I think it's gonna be fun with this. Maybe once we watch all these movies, maybe we'll do the book for the Patreon, and it'll be kind of interesting to see in what ways they're faithful and in what ways they aren't. It's kind of the reverse of what people usually do. But I think that'd be kind of fun because I don't know how faithful this is to the Siodmak novel. But it has this one, being our first one, it feels kind of novelistic. It even starts with sort of a stage setting voiceover that sort of tells you where you are and what's going on in a way that feels like you've got a book narrator that's telling you what's up.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if this one ends up being more faithful than most, even though it does not choose to be titled Donovan's Brain.
Apparently the book also has 2 sequels.
I saw something about that, and I think they're sort of sometimes conceptual writers will be this is my apocalypse trilogy or whatever, and they're all no characters cross over. If it's just these 3 thematically or so, because it's the other 2 are somebody's. It's a name and then a noun, but I think they're. I don't think they're directly connected, but I might be wrong.
Oh yeah, I'm reading the Wikipedia entry for Hauser's Memory, which is the first sequel. Yeah, I think you're kind of on the money there, because it's a completely different kind of mad science thing that's literally just about memories being imprinted on another person's mind.
Gotcha. Okay, they might still be fun to get into at some point.
Maybe, yeah, but
it's kind of. But yeah, definitely we want to talk about get into all this Donovan's Brain stuff, because it is it feels very Frankenstein-y, and obviously Kurt Siodmak is a big part of Universal horror in the early days as well.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so as I kind of hinted at, we start with sort of like a voiceover narration that straight up tells you, like, our story begins on the edge of a lonely desert in Arizona. For it was there that the brilliant scientist Franz Mueller chose to live and work in a bright, fantastic place he called the castle. So he's, you know, it's Arizona. He's got an old house kind of in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't look like a castle per se, but that this seems to be what he has called his little home / science lab.
Mm-hmm.
And we start off with him like arriving at home. Like there's like a storm. He bursts in, in the rain and everything. And like we meet Mueller, and we also meet his housekeeper and his assistant Patrick. All kind of right away. Like they're basically in the entryway when he comes in. They're like, "Oh, we were worried about you out in the storm and everything." And we right away get like are set up that there's like friction in the house. So Mueller is he cares for he has like a ward, a girl named Janice. Not a woman. She's not a girl. She's
she's an adult
woman.
Yeah.
But apparently, like her parent, like he took her in because her parents died, and he feels protective over her and a little bit possessive of her, and as we go, we'll get some the levels of that. But then Patrick, Mueller's assistant, definitely has like a relationship that's like sort of forming with her. Like they're actually getting ready to leave. They're going to like a formal ball or something, and Mueller just basically shuts it all down. He's like, "Well, I just got back. I've got this sick monkey that we need to do work on. He won't live through the night. This is perfect for our experiments, and I'm gonna need a lot of help." And Patrick, like he's just like, "All right, I guess I'll stick around, and I guess I'm not gonna go to the ball." It seems like the kind of thing where like that's sort of the goal. Like Mueller is happy that he's forcing Patrick to not go to this thing.
Oh yeah, it's definitely intentional.
Oh, and I do so. Often with these older movies, like the casts are just people that we aren't super familiar with or anything. But Mueller in this is like an icon of cinema. I think he's definitely worth taking a second to talk about. So this is Erich von Stroheim, who was like a film director. He has like a bunch of movies that like Criterion has released. Like he's big into like that side of film, but he's also an actor in like a lot of important movies.
Yeah.
Like he's in like early like Renoir films and everything. But he's also he has like it's interesting. Like he's in like artsy things, like things that are like high art, important films, quote unquote, and then also is in stuff like this. Like he just seems like a guy who just like wants to work and wants to like make movies and just be involved in this in any way that he can, which is pretty cool. Like later in life, like he was in Sunset Boulevard, which is like a classic of film noir.
Yeah. The whole time I was watching this, I was like, he's so familiar. I was like, has he been in like another? Have I watched him in another like crappy like B horror movie like this? Like his face is like striking me, and then I looked him up. I was like, oh yeah, fucking of course.
Yeah, he's just got such a like serious, intense face. He plays villains a lot. He plays Nazis a lot. It's just a very intense German guy. So works out for him. But yeah, I just like, and he's great in this, in that he's just like, he's very like controlling and very in command of everything, but he's very like measured. He's not like he's not yelling at people, but he's very like intense in like a under the surface way that's like frightening, you know. Like he's great in this role for sure. I had not, you know, obviously I hadn't seen this before, and was very like, yeah, I had the same thing where I was like, I know him, and I was like, oh yeah, and then I was just really really excited to like see this movie with him, where like he definitely elevates it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so we, you know, he sort of is coldly excited about forcing Patrick to help him and not go out with Janice. So then we go into the lab and we get to see the experiment, which is, you know, a lot of monologue from Mueller, talking about like what his whole thing is here, which is he wants to move a brain from a dead person, but a still alive brain, and put it into a new body and see what happens. Will the brain retain its memories? Which, you know, I feel like we run into a lot in Frankenstein stuff where it's just like, we're not gonna. No, it doesn't. We're not gonna think about how that works or why or whatever, because it just complicates things way too much. But here, that's the plan. Like I want to be able to take the mind of a great man and move it into, you know, another body. Yeah,
prolong the lives of important people.
Yeah, which has this sort of, you know, I mean, it has a sort of Nazi-ish quality. It has like this very, you know, eugenics thing where it's like, well, we get to pick who's important, and those people get to keep living on, and we'll take the bodies from less important people. And you know, when you're, you know, choosing who gets to make those kind of decisions, that's pretty scary territory. But yeah, so to start with, we're doing this with this monkey, and as they're getting prepped or whatever, Janice ends up coming in, and she's like, I mean, if we're not going, I might as well help too. I think when she comes in, Mueller's like, good, that's as it should be. You know, you shouldn't be so interested in your frivolous dinner parties anyway. What we're doing here is important. You know, you shouldn't be able to enjoy any kind of happiness. You should just work all the time. So we get like Mueller, like we see a little bit of like that Mueller, like, you know, he tries this with the monkey. He talks about like they use encephalographs to like trace the waves to tell. It's in this, they describe it as like fingerprints, that like every brain has its own wave pattern. So we'll be able to tell when the monkey comes back to life, does it have the same brain waves? Has it changed in some way? And they're able to keep the monkey alive for about 90 minutes, but then it eventually dies. And, you know, Mueller's pretty good about being like, well, you know, that's progress. Like that's why we did it with a monkey first. Like it's not going to be perfect right away, but, you know, the fact that it lived at all, I mean, obviously that's something that we couldn't do right now. We could not transplant a brain and keep it alive for 90 minutes in a different body.
Yeah. Very reminded me a lot of the that doctor, that real life doctor that was doing the like monkey head transplant experiments. Mm-hmm. You know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
I can never remember his name, but people were like calling him the real life Dr. Frankenstein when he was, you know, when that was like breaking news. And I remember watching some of the footage from those experiments, and it's unsettling. It's like incredibly unsettling.
Yeah, it's I mean, that's the thing with this kind of like science, is like some of it, you know, there is a certain amount of just like unpleasant things that go into that, whether it's dissecting dead humans to understand the inside of the bodies or testing on animals. But yeah, I feel like we're a little too far away from needing to do this just yet. Like,
yeah, we got a lot more important, like immediate problems that need to be solved before we start worrying about, you know, brain transplants and stuff like that.
Yeah. But yeah, so, you know, Mueller kind of like tries to comfort everybody that we've done a good job. Like, you know, he, as cold and sort of like calculating as he is, he like does seem to like care about the science and care about that we all keep working together and that like we don't give up. Like, just because we had a setback isn't the end of the world. But since the experiment's over, the monkeys died, Janice and Patrick decide to still go ahead and go out. And I think while they're like getting ready to go, as they're all talking about, like, Janice doesn't understand why he wants to be a scientist. And he's like, he thinks that what Mueller's doing is great, and like that he is a great mind, and that he wants to be a part of this stuff. Meanwhile, Janice is just like, it's all I know. I've just been here my whole life, so I help out, and I know this stuff just because it's been here. But she doesn't seem as invested in it.
Yeah, she seems like a lot of the stuff that's going on in the lab kind of makes her uneasy.
Yeah. And then we get a great bit here where like we start to kind of see what's been going on around here. Patrick's like, you stay here, it's raining. I'll go get the car. I'll pull around to the front. And so while he's gone, Janice confronts Mueller and is like, that experiment was awfully conveniently timed. I think you were trying to mess up my date. And he's like, I'm just protecting you so you can make the right choice, because since your father's died, I'm all you have. And, you get the sense that he thinks the right choice might be him.
Of course, yeah. Very Dr. Hill vibes from Reanimator.
Yes. Yeah. So we cut to like a little later, and the couple is at a sort of dance club. They watch several performances of like kind of big band jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And they dance a little bit, and they're having a great time. And they actually discuss like that. It seems like Mueller's trying to keep us apart. And then like really just perfect timing as they're talking about that. A waiter comes over. This is like a classic thing back in the day, before cell phones and such, that like the waiter comes over and is like, you've got a call. So they take the call, and of course it's Mueller saying that there was a plane crash nearby, and we might be able to get some more test subjects. So he asks Patrick to go out and check on what's going on and see what he can get on his way home. And somehow he's just able to do this. Like they've got this town under control in a way that like none of our Victor Frankensteins ever do. Like they just go to the site of a plane crash and steal some bodies. And then when Patrick gets home with them, like the local doctor, I think his name's Martin, Dr. Martin.
Yeah.
He comes by to like help them fill out the death certificate paperwork to just like make sure that there aren't any questions.
Well, he comes by because he thinks that, he's unaware that they're already dead. And he comes in and he's like, oh, well, I guess I'm not needed at all. And then he's like, Dr. Mueller, you can fill out the death certificate and bring it by my office in the morning, right? Okay, cool. See ya. Like he's just super nonchalant about the whole thing.
Yeah, like doesn't seem like, okay, yeah, sure, you can hang on to these corpses. That's fine and good. And so as soon as Dr. Barton leaves, Mueller is able to revive the brain, and is like, okay, this is great. This is our opportunity, because the brain is alive, but it's definitely not going to stay alive in this damaged body. And Patrick's like, this is unethical. This person didn't consent to this. Like, we don't know who they are even. And Muller's like, well, we have to, how else are we going to test these theories? We have to do this. And then I think Janice ends up coming in because, again, like, what else can she do? I guess she might as well help. And so they're having her sterilize the instruments, and they ask for her to bring the giggly saw, which I is like a type of like bone saw, specifically I think primarily used for skulls. Like it's
I had to look that one up because I was like, there's no fucking way. Like that's the like what? And it's one of those bone saws where it's like a metal fiber wire basically, and it's got the two handles on either side. It's kind of like a sometimes you see quote unquote chainsaws that are like just the chain with two handles on either side. It's the same sort of thing.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, it seems like it's for precision. So we want to get into the get through the skull, but not damage the brain. And I think as they're like doing this, and like Janice is not really happy with the whole process or whatever, but they've got the brain like in a jar sort of situation, still alive, and they're just like waiting for everything, and they're filling out the death certificate, and they have to like get out the IDs from the dead man to figure out who they're putting on this death certificate, and they find out this is William H. Donovan, obviously Donovan's brain, but Donovan's just not just some guy. They're all shocked that they have William H. Donovan here on their slab. This is the most illustrious brain in the whole country, they say. So he's a celebrity. He's somebody well known, and the fact that they have his brain is pretty wild. So I think the next thing we just cut to like the next day. They've gone to Dr. Martin's office to give him the death certificate. And he's like, "Oh, great! You got here perfect time because Mr. Donovan's wife is here and their attorney, and they want to speak with you about, the condition of the body and some of that kind of stuff. And they also want to know if he had any last words, which Mueller says no, he did not. And the lawyer looks over all the death certificate stuff, and he's like, okay, so the cause of death is an internal hemorrhage, but I see the body. It looks like you've tampered with the brain. And Mueller's basically like, well, the internal hemorrhage was like the actual cause of death, but there was a lot of damage to the body, and legally, that's all I can say. I can't.
Yeah.
He really just kind of throws the like, oh, NDA. I can't. I'm sorry. I'd love to tell you more, but I simply can't. But as soon as they leave, the lawyer and Mrs. Donovan are like, something suspicious is going on here. We need to dig into this. This isn't right. So we go back to the house where Janice is begging Patrick. She's like, I'm stuck here. I'm Mueller's ward, but you don't have to be here. You should leave while you can. Things are going to get worse around here, it feels like. But Patrick's like, no, I want to be here with you. Like, even if I didn't care about the work, I want to protect you. And it seems like maybe Mueller has, he might have feelings for you as well, and that maybe it'd be good for me to be here to keep you safe from that. And she's like, I don't think he's capable of love. He just feels that he possesses me. But they basically agree, like, we're going to slowly start getting stuff together, and we're going to get out of here together as soon as we can. And I think even, like, Patrick goes to, like, tell Mueller that, like, they're thinking that this is going to happen soon. Which seems wild. I feel like in their shoes, I would be like, let's get everything together and just be gone.
What about your situation makes you think that being like frank and honest with this kind of person is going to work out?
Yeah, it reminded me of like, I think the thing with like, if like like a battered spouse tries to run away, it's like that's the day that they're most likely to die statistically. Like, so you really want to get away and be as hidden as possible, before they know what's going on, because that's the most dangerous time. So it seems wild, but Patrick ends up getting like distracted by the brain and doesn't end up telling Mueller. And then I think we have like, we just cut to like later that night where Janice is watching out the window and sees somebody leaving the house. And she goes to Patrick and is like, I think something's going on, and he like looks around outside and stuff and doesn't see anything. And she's like, well, did you tell him that we're gonna leave? And he's like, I'm going to. He just kind of like dodges it. But while they're talking, Mueller bursts in with a gun, and they're like, whoa, what's going on? And he's like, oh, I heard noise. I thought somebody might be trying to steal the brain. And they're like, no, we just, we heard a sound. We were just seeing what was going on. And he's like, all right, everything's fine. Everybody head to bed. So there's pretty tense there for a minute, but everything's all right. And then we cut away and we find out, no, somebody did sneak in and get away, and they just didn't take anything, so they weren't detected.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, of course, Donovan's attorney, who discovered the brain and realizes, like, okay, these crazy, weird scientists have stolen Donovan's brain.
Yeah, he has a line that made me laugh too when he's talking to Donovan's wife. She was like, the whole thing sounds wild. And the attorney goes, yes, almost as wild as the life of William H. Donovan. And I was like, really? Like, this is not, there's more wild stuff than this. Like, they've got his brain still alive in a giant, like, mad scientist laboratory. But that's still not as wild as some of the shit that Donovan got into when he was alive.
Yeah. But we do get a lot of exposition from them as well, because she's like, we should call the cops and just put an end to this. And he's like, but if we do that, a lot of what we have going on is going to come out into the public as well. And currently, no one knows that Donovan died not leaving you a single dime. And we find out that basically they believe that Donovan has a hidden fortune that he was trying to keep away from her. And the lawyer's like, well, if what they're doing works, we could talk to the brain and find out where the hidden treasure is. So, I mean, that's the best lead we got right now. We might as well be patient and see what happens. And so I think then we have, like, the next day, Patrick gets home with a bunch of supplies, and Janice is like, what the fuck? Like, one, we're trying to get out of here, and two, we had a date. Where have you been? We were supposed to go horseback riding. And he was like, oh, yeah, I totally forgot. Mueller sent me out to get some stuff, and I got busy. And then we get the narrator interjecting again, which again feels like they're trying to use, I would assume, use big chunks of the novel.
Yeah.
And the narrator basically kind of gives us a little bit of like a montage so we can skip ahead, which is that Patrick ends up becoming as obsessed with the brain as Mueller, and that Janice is frustrated, but she sticks around to try to keep Patrick sane and to make sure that Mueller doesn't know what's going on and doesn't get suspicious that they're still planning to leave. And then we jump to, like, some time has passed. They're still experimenting. They've discovered that the brain seems more active at night, and they don't really understand why. And Patrick wisely is like, we should look into Donovan's life. Like, what did he do? What was his schedule like? Maybe his brain is that way because of what he was like when he was alive.
Yeah, what if he was a night owl?
Which seems to be true. That seems to be like what they find out, that he worked a lot at night. That was when he did his, like, best thinking or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think they find that from, like, a newspaper interview. And they're like, okay, well, that's good to know, but we still don't know how to communicate with the brain. Like, it's just, we can read the waves, with the encephalogram. But what do we, how do we talk to it? Patrick's like, what if we teach the brain Morse code? And they're like, but yeah, how would it respond back? Like, what is it going to use? And Mueller is convinced that maybe we can teach it through telepathy. That would be our best bet, which seems like a crazy leap.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's like, brain waves, radio waves, it's all the same. We just need a medium to like interpret the waves. And then we get the narrator again that says, it was that very night that Patrick Corey received his first message from Donovan's brain. So this is not a place that I expected this to go. And I was like, okay, so yeah, now we're psychically communicating with a brain in a jar. That is a wild direction for this to be taking. But it starts with like Patrick is like laying in bed and he just hears this like warbly voice that just keeps saying W.H. Donovan over and over again. And to like really kind of lean into this whole like that it's, psychic. Patrick gets up and goes to his desk and he tries to do like automatic writing with his left hand. And then we just cut to the next morning where Janice finds him asleep at his desk all in a daze. And we see that, even though he is right-handed, he wrote Donovan's signature perfectly over and over again with his left hand.
Yeah.
So strangely, after, Mueller is the one who suggested this whole thing, he's being scientific about it. He's like, I don't know. I mean, that's not a slam dunk guarantee that this is right. This could be auto-suggestion. You've seen his signature. You've hypnotized yourself into doing it.
That really pissed me off. I was like, you are the one. You are the fucking guy who was like, telepathy, telekinesis, it's psychic. And then he's like, immediately, when you have like insane evidence, he's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And I think we pretty much like, Patrick's kind of annoyed that nobody believes him. And then we just go to like the next night where it happens again. But this time he keeps just saying federal prison. And Patrick just like jumps out of bed, gets in a car and speeds off. And Janice sees this happen and goes to Mueller and is like, I think Patrick just like sleepwalked out to his car and left. And Mueller's like, oh, it is the telepathy. Like this is the proof that I needed. Yeah. I don't know what makes this different. But he like pours some sort of drug into the brain jar to put it asleep. And then we see, Patrick speeding blindly, like, all these cars are swerving off the road. He's driving asleep. But then eventually he goes completely unconscious and stops because the brain has been drugged and has, let go of its control over him. And I think then like Janice catches up to him and, is like telling him what happened. And he's like, okay, yeah, but I do have to go to the federal prison. I have to figure out what's going on. Like I am now invested in figuring this out. So you go back and tell Mueller that I'm going to figure it out. And then we get, a classic newspaper headline to tell us that, the media has found out that Donovan's millions were fake. He's a fraud. His wife has been left penniless. And we have like
celebrity investment banker not actually being as rich as they say they are. What?
Right. Yeah. There's definitely like this kind of like capitalist thing where, yeah, you're just like moving the numbers around and trying to like keep everything afloat as long as you can. Like this story is not new to us for sure.
Yeah.
But Patrick goes to talk to her, and says like, yeah, I saw, the rumors in the paper. I know those aren't true. I know you're doing fine, but I'm curious. Donovan did have last words, just Mueller didn't know. So I was wondering what he said, federal prison. What would that mean? And she immediately gets very cagey and she's like, I don't know. I didn't even know that such a thing existed as a federal prison. I've never heard those words together in my life. I don't beats me. But I'll ask our lawyer friend to see if he knows something. So I think she goes into the next room to call him, and Patrick does the classic, like, pick up the phone and try to listen in, which I don't know if people know that you used to be able to do this. This is, when you had a landline, all the lines were on the same, number, and, like, there was often, like, you could just pick up and listen in on your siblings' conversations or whatever, and so he kind of snoops a little bit, and hears that basically she's talking to the lawyer, and that she's going to do what she can to keep him in town until they can figure out what's going on, to keep Patrick in town. And like, while she's in the other room, also he, like, presses a button on a dictaphone and hears Donovan's voice come through. And then Mrs. Donovan comes in and is like, I was wondering if you might have dinner with the two of us tomorrow. We can discuss this a little further. And he agrees to it, but then that night in his room, Patrick calls Janice and says he'll be home tomorrow at noon, which seems, like he's just agreed to a dinner that he would not be able to go to if that were the case. And she says, like, don't try to drive at night. Who knows what could happen? Like, it's just dangerous. You could fall asleep, and all this weird telepathy stuff on top of it. And then we see that Mueller has listened into this conversation. Everybody's snooping on everybody in this movie. And not only does he snoop, but once she hangs up, he reconnects to the operator, which this is, like, even before the landline time that I'm familiar with. But you used to be able to do this. He just, like, rings back the operator, and he's like, can you reconnect me to we just got disconnected. I want to call them back, and I don't know the number. And the operator does it, so he's able to talk to Patrick. And he's like, so I've got the brain kind of drugged up right now. It's sedated, so it's not bothering you. But I'm going to wake it up so that we can see what it has to say while you're visiting Mrs. Donovan. Maybe this will, bring the whole case together. And so sure enough, he wakes up in the middle of the night with the brain talking to him again, and it tells him to go to a bank, and it gives him an account number, and it tells him to withdraw a specific amount of money, with that number. And so he tries this, but this results in, like, the teller being like, hold on, come with me, he takes him back to the manager, and they're like, so this was an account that was opened years ago. We didn't know who it was opened by, and it's got a bunch of money in it, and this is the first time anybody has tried to withdraw money from it. So we're just curious, what's up, man? Like, what's the deal here? This is weird. And of course, Patrick doesn't even know anything to tell them, even if he wanted to. He's as in the dark about this whole situation as they are, basically.
Yeah.
And when he leaves the bank, he's just, like, driven to go visit the lawyer. And when he gets there, he's like, I need to hire you for a job. There's a man in federal prison that I need you to get him off. And here's some money to help with that. And the lawyer's like, that's really not how things work. Like, there's a whole, like, I can't just go and be like, I have money, let this guy out of jail. And Patrick's like, well, if you can't do it, I'll hire a different lawyer. And he's like, I'm just listening. I'm just telling you, it might be a little more complicated than you think. I'm not saying I'm not going to help. But who are we talking about here? And Patrick, like, picks up a pen and, like, again with his left hand writes Roger Collins. And the lawyer's like, no, there's no way. He's in jail for murder. There's no way we're getting him out. And Patrick's like, it's not hopeless. We can do this. I can get you more money, whatever you need. And also, I want to have a visit with Collins. I want to talk to him. So we've got all these sort of mysterious elements that are coming together in like a very strange way. And I think we just cut to like Patrick in the prison warden's office where they like bring Collins in to talk to him. And Collins is like, another psychiatrist. I'm done talking to you, head shrinks. I'm just going back to my room or my cell. And Patrick's like, I'm not a psychiatrist. But I do believe you're innocent, and I think I can get you out. And he starts asking Collins a bunch of questions, and Collins like, I think you're actually a psychiatrist, and you're just trying to trick me into talking to you in a different way. And I'm just not into that. I'm done with this. And then Patrick, like, kind of like the lights dim around him. Sort of I think this is the movie's way to tell us that like Donovan is taking over again.
Yeah.
And we basically figure it all out that like, so Collins was accused of murdering his stepfather, and that his real father is Donovan. So this is why, and I think at this point Donovan has like taken over Patrick. Like there is no Patrick, only Donovan.
Yeah.
And he's demanding, like his personality changes. This actor does a really good job of like being Patrick or Donovan, and kind of playing them a little differently. But yeah, basically like whatever it takes, we're gonna get Collins out. And so he goes, the Patrick body goes back to his room, and Janice calls to check in, and because he's not Patrick anymore, he's awful to her. Like Donovan just has no patience for this woman. Like he's got important work to do. He's tired of her bothering him all the time, calling and nagging him and everything.
Just a huge dickhead.
Yeah, just the worst. And she's like, I just wanted to warn you, once Mueller stops sedating Donovan's brain, he's actually been like overfeeding it, like giving it more of the life-giving. I think he's trying to make it connect harder with you. I don't think he's concerned about what kind of effect that would have on you. He just wants more information from Donovan's brain. And Donovan doesn't care. That's good, actually. That's what's working for him. So he just hangs up on her. And maybe Janice kind of realizes what's going on, so she sneaks into the lab and just turns off the brain machine. But somehow there's a system in place. This wakes Mueller up, and he comes rushing in. He tries to stop her. There's kind of like a scuffle, but she's like, it's too late. The machine's off. Patrick's free. The brain is dead. But even though the machine's off, the lights that are like connected to the brain, they're still pulsing. They're still on. And they realize that this brain is now just alive. It doesn't, they've taken off the ventilator, basically. The brain does not require a machine to keep it alive at this point. It's just actually living. So nothing can stop it outside of physically destroying it. And so, of course, Janice immediately just tries to smash the tank. She is really trying to free Patrick, but Mueller stops her and is like, no, I don't want Patrick to be free. I want this to happen. So I think we have Janice she can't overpower him, so she runs out. And out in the hallway, she bumps into the maid who is like, here are keys to Mueller's car. Get out of here. Just run. Like, you're not safe here anymore. So she runs out, and we cut back to, Donovan in Patrick's body, visiting the lawyer again. And we find out that the reason that Collins ended up in jail is there was a star witness in the case who saw everything play out, and it was a little girl. And so Donovan's like, well, we just got to make that girl disappear until the case is resolved, and she won't be able to testify. And they end up visiting her to ask her what she knows, or having her come into the office. I can't remember, but they talk to her. And she describes her memories of the murder, and she gets an additional detail that's not in her previous statement, which is that after Collins committed the murder, he bent down and picked a flower and tucked it in his lapel. And Donovan's like, "Oh, this is great. We need to tell the lawyer, because surely Collins wouldn't have stopped to pick a flower and put it in his lapel if he had just murdered a guy. He would be like trying to get away." And the lawyer's like, "That is not enough. That is not exonerating evidence, man.
Yeah.
I know you think that that's really useful, but that's nothing. But I'll keep working. I'm not giving up. Just what you're bringing is just straight trash." And I think then it's just like later that night, Donovan Patrick is back in his room, and Janice comes to visit, and he's trying to send her away. She wants to help, and he's like, "I don't need your help. Get out of here." And then there's another knock at the door while he's arguing with her, and he's like, "Okay, well, this is gonna mess up everything. I need you to hide in the bathroom. Stay out of it. Like, you can't be involved in this part." And so she does, and he opens the door, and it is a different lawyer, not the one he's been talking to. And he's basically like, "I can do this. I can get it's just gonna take a little bit of bribery, some jury tampering, $100K. That'll do it. That's all I need." And Donovan's like, I'll pay that on delivery, but not before." And the lawyer's like, nah, I want the money up front. So they can't reach an agreement, so he leaves. And then Janice comes out of the bathroom and is like, "What is happening? Like, I am so confused. I'm here to help. I will help you with whatever you need, but I don't understand. What are you doing?" And I think she ends up calling back to Mueller's house and talking to the maid. And it's basically, this feels like it's these two put upon women who are having to suffer dealing with these like idiot mad scientists who won't do anything right. And they're both absolutely worried sick. And they're like, "What are we going to do to protect Patrick and Mueller?" Like, it's just, they're going to mess everything up without us, but like, they won't tell us anything. So how are we supposed to help? This felt like a very real scene. I felt very bad for both of them.
Yeah.
And I think in this conversation, like we have like both of them sort of acknowledge that like Donovan may be fully in control of Patrick at this point. And I think the maid is like, I think the brain might even be controlling Mueller. Like, I think it might be that powerful that it's controlling both of them. And I think that's when Mueller finds her on the phone, and like he like overhears this part of it and is like, "You're just jealous because you love me and I love Janice. And you're just like," I think he calls her ugly and old. Like, it's just, again, extremely cruel. Mueller's been cold, but he's not been cruel, which is sort of indicative of like that Donovan is at least partially in control of what's going on here.
Yeah. His influence is moving past just Corey.
Yeah. He like slaps her, knocks her down, and then like storms out. Meanwhile, Fulton is his name, the original lawyer, Donovan and Mrs. Donovan's lawyer. And he's like, he comes to talk to Mrs. Donovan, and he's like, "The plan's working, the money's coming. I think we're gonna find the secret, the secret stash, basically." And she's like, "It's so funny that Patrick is being controlled by Donovan. Like, Donovan seems fully in control, but somehow Patrick doesn't realize that Collins is Donovan's son. Somehow Donovan has hidden this information from Patrick." And I think then we have like the next day, again, Patrick, Donovan, whatever, they comes to check in on Fulton and see what's going on. And he's like, "The case is reopened. We're working on it, but the prosecution apparently has some new evidence as well, and I don't have the disclosure on that, so still working on it." And of course, Donovan doesn't like that, and he storms out. And then we see that Janice is in Fulton's like lobby area, waiting to talk to Patrick, or Patrick / Donovan. But instead, she like hides and lets them leave, or lets him. I don't know what pronouns to use for these two body or two brains. But she goes in to talk to Fulton instead. And finds the other lawyer that we saw, asking for bribe money, and his name's Grimes. So he works with Fulton. This is all an elaborate setup that Fulton has put together. Mm-hmm. And Janice is like, "What is happening?" And Grimes is like, "Well, you're all in a lot of trouble. You all stole a brain." And then Patrick illegally withdrew money from somebody else's account. Now he's soliciting jury tampering. And we know that Donovan's brain is actually taken over and is in charge. We think we could get Patrick to safety. We could free him from Donovan's control. But we're going to need a lot of money. And we believe that Donovan has that money. But if we don't deal with this soon enough, I think that Donovan will murder again. And he says again, and Janice is like, Donovan, the famous Donovan is a murderer, and he's like, oh yeah, the whole thing was Collins. Collins didn't commit that murder. Donovan did that, so he'll definitely do it again. And Janice, this is a lot of information for Janice to process, so she leaves, and when she gets outside, it seems that the Patrick Donovan did see her and is now waiting on her, and like throws her in the car, and they take off together. Donovan ends up driving them to where the young witness girl from earlier is arriving home from school. And as soon as she gets off the bus, Donovan just like stomps the gas. He's going to run over this little girl in public right next to a school bus. Absolutely crazy shit. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. He's in somebody else's body. He can just leave, and then Patrick's in trouble, so who cares?
Yeah.
But instead, Janice manages to grab the wheel and turn it at the last second, saving the girl, which infuriates Donovan. And he like drags her out of the car and just is trying to choke her to death on the sidewalk. Meanwhile, back at the castle, the maid has found the knockout drugs and is putting that in the brain tank again, and manages to get enough that suddenly, back where Patrick is nearly strangling Janice, he snaps out of it. He wakes up. And he's like, okay, it's really me. I'm sorry. I'm free, but like we gotta hurry back to the castle. Things are bad. We gotta put a stop to all of this before it gets worse. So as they're driving back, Patrick kind of they sort of fill each other in on the things that they've learned. But we find that Mrs. Donovan and Fulton liked Collins being in jail, since he's the only legitimate heir to the Donovan fortune. Of course, Donovan was the real killer, but he wasn't able to get his son off the hook. So he kind of had to live with the guilt of that, like he committed this murder and that his son is taking the rap for it. But, and because Mrs. Donovan and Fulton sort of like helped engineer it that way, then they eventually get back to the castle where the maid is like, okay, so I did drug the brain. I thought that would save him, but like we gotta destroy the brain now before things get worse. And that's when Mueller comes in with his gun again, and the brain's asleep. This isn't this isn't Donovan in Mueller's body. This is just Mueller. He's just like, no, this experiment, I'm still dedicated to it. I still want this. And Patrick's like, I just want to be free. And he's like, oh yeah, you just want to be free to be with Janice. And he's like, yeah, yes I do. So, they start fighting, and, it comes down to, after all this, like, mad science and murder and telepathy, it just ends up with, like, two jealous dudes fighting over a girl. And as they fight, the gun gets dropped in the process, and surprisingly, of all people, the maid manages to get the gun, and she just fucking shoots Mueller. She's done with all this bullshit. If he's trying to stop things from, getting solved, let's take him out of the equation. So, yep, she shoots him, and while he's laying there, Janice rushes over, smashes the brain jar, and then we get, like, one last voiceover from the narrator, kind of summing up, what happened, which is mainly that, like, the maid got off scot-free. She killed Mueller in self-defense. But Patrick did have to serve a short term for his part in the experiment. That was all voluntary. He did do that stuff, and it definitely was illegal. But he and Janice were so in love that she waited for him, and when he got out, they lived happily ever after. And I guess, Donovan's brain being destroyed, the spirit of Donovan evaporated and could not cause any more trouble. And we don't really find out what happened with Collins or Fulton or Mrs. Donovan.
Yeah, they kind of just let you leave that up to your imagination.
Yeah, because presumably, Collins is definitely innocent. And I don't know if he ever gets out, if they have any kind of evidence that would help with that.
I was surprised that they put in that Corey's, did a little jail time, but they didn't have anything like for the attorneys and Mrs. Donovan. It's like, okay, all right.
Yeah, we don't get the full 80s movie wrap up where we get to find out what everybody's up to. Just our main characters here, and that's how The Lady and the Monster ends, and we will see how that compares as we move forward. I believe the next one we're talking about is actually called Donovan's Brain, I believe. And I've done my best. This seems like, it's a little mini Frankenstein in that, a lot of people have adapted it over the years. There's one that I cannot find, so I think we're just going to have to not be able to do this. It's one of those anthology TV show 1 hour long Playhouse kind of versions.
Oh yeah.
And I cannot find it anywhere. But it came out, I think it came out, so Lady and the Monster came out in 1944. Next week we're going to be talking about Donovan's Brain, which came out in 1953, which I think is the same year that Playhouse thing came out. So unfortunately, unless I get lucky somewhere, we may just have to do without that one. But I'm interested to see the only Donovan's Brain adaptation that is actually just called Donovan's Brain. So we will get to that next week.
Yeah, I like this movie a decent amount. I felt like the ending was kind of meh, but I liked the mad science lab stuff. I felt like the actor playing Corey did a pretty good job for a 1944 movie of showing like a complete personality change.
Yeah, this is, nowadays I feel like this is something we see a little bit more often, and there are definitely actors who have really you have Tatiana Maslany when she did Orphan Black, who played all these characters and got all this praise and everything. But I think back then this was a less familiar thing. I mean, I guess there was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type stuff, but that involved a lot of makeup, and it was the character work was done more physically, whereas this is just all person, it's all acting, and yeah, I think he does a great job with it.
Definitely.
And to be in a movie with an actor who is a classic and well regarded sort of acting icon, and he's holding his own, so that's pretty good. Yeah,
be like today being in a Shudder original with Anthony Hopkins or something.
Yeah, really. But I think that Janice, I think this is just, it's well put together. It's done really well. and it's unique, like when we do the things that are like slightly off the Frankenstein beaten path. Sometimes they're still kind of predictable in certain ways, or else they're like a little bit too far off the path. But this feels very Frankenstein-y, but also very unique. All this telepathy stuff is unique to this, and this whole other angle of the murder mystery and the missing money and stuff. Like, there's a lot going on in here, and they, other than that, the ending just kind of doesn't leaves a few loose ends that I would have liked to have seen resolved. But outside of that, like, it really manages to juggle a lot of plot lines and keep them all going pretty well.
Yeah. Hopefully, the rest of the adaptations will at least be as decent as this, if not better. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm interested because we have the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, then there's 2 in the 60s, and then we have a huge jump to 2020. So I'm kind of curious to see, like as the decades go, how this story will be interpreted and sort of remade for each sort of new generation. So that should be pretty fun. Obviously, I'm sure special effects will improve, and so like the basic, like, older movies have a different pace and tone that's a little less familiar to us nowadays.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting to see that progress as we go as well.
I meant to ask, do you... And I can't remember. You guys have not covered The Brain before, right? 1988 movie The Brain?
No.
Do you have it on the spreadsheet for movies? Do you know the movie I'm talking about?
No. Is this the one that's like, it's like the weird, like, alien looking brain?
Yeah, it's got David Gale in it as like the mad scientist, but it's very... I was looking at the IMDb for it earlier because I watched it on when Joe Bob showed it on Shudder during one of his shows, and it really is very similar. It's not exactly the same, obviously, to Donovan's brain, but it's a giant living brain that a mad scientist is using to psychically do evil stuff.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's been a long time since I've seen it, and I couldn't remember. I was like, oh, it's an alien brain. I don't know if there's mad science stuff in there, because it pops up because one of the Donovan's Brain adaptations is just called The Brain.
The Brain, yeah.
So as I'm searching for the one, I'm finding the other a lot. But yeah, maybe we'll squeeze that in this whole process as well.
Yeah, definitely take a look at it, because I feel like, especially with David Gale being in there, this is right after he had his love of acting revitalized from being in Reanimator. It very much has got like major mad scientist vibes.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like fun.
Well, we hope that you guys have enjoyed, and if you also watched The Lady and the Monster, let us know what you thought. If you're looking forward to the rest of the Donovan's Brains adaptations, let us know if we're missing any or any other mad science, living brain, living head movies. Definitely let us know that too.
Absolutely, yeah.
But Anthony, where can they find us at?
Yeah, so you can find us on all the socials at The Frankencast. You can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. We're also over on YouTube, which I know we'd kind of fallen behind on posting there, but I am fully caught up. So there's lots of episodes over on YouTube as well. And of course, we're at patreon.com/thefrankencast, where you get a second episode every week of us looking into all sorts of things, TV shows, comic books. Hayden and I have been talking about the Frankenstein Chronicles lately and having a great time with that series.
Oh, yeah. We've only got 2 more episodes to go. Check it out.
Yes, and it's getting real intense. So we would love to have you over there. You can catch up before we get that last episode out, talking about the last 2. But yeah, definitely check that out if you want. There's a free trial still, and there's all kinds of options where you can see if it's for you before you have to spend any money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, if that's all there is, Anthony, then I guess it's to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman, Eric Velasquez, and Hayden Orr. Follow us online at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.